Nogales Tower, this is 41632. Last known position approximately 20 miles north-northwest at 1,500 feet. Experiencing engine failure. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Nogales Tower, this is 41632. We are going down. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
It is approximately 10 a.m. in mid-August. You have just crash-landed in the Sonora Desert in the southwestern United States. The light twin-engine plane containing the bodies of the pilot and co-pilot has completely burned. Only the airframe remains. None of the rest of you have been injured. The pilot was unable to notify anyone of your position before the crash. You were approximately 65 miles off the course that was filed in your VFR flight plan. The pilot had indicated before impact that you were 70 miles south-southwest from a mining camp, which is the nearest known habitation. The immediate area is quite flat, and except for the occasional beryl and saguaro cacti, appears to be rather barren. The last weather report indicated the temperature would reach 110 degrees, which means that the temperature at ground level will be 130 degrees. You are dressed in lightweight clothing, short-sleeve shirts, pants, socks, and street shoes. Everyone has a handkerchief. Collectively, your pockets contain $2.38 in change, $85 in bills, a pack of cigarettes, and a ballpoint pen. Before the plane caught fire, your group was able to salvage 15 items that could increase your chance of survival. Your task is to rank these items according to their importance to your survival, starting with 1 as the most important, to 15 as the least important. The items are a 4-battery flashlight, a jackknife, a sectional air map of the area, a plastic raincoat, a magnetic compass, a compress kit with gauze, a loaded .45 caliber pistol, a red and white parachute, a bottle of salt tablets, 1,000 tablets, 1 quart of water per person, a book entitled Edible Animals of the Desert, 1 pair of sunglasses per person, 2 quarts of 180 proof vodka, 1 top coat per person, and a cosmetic mirror. You may assume the number of survivors is the same as the number on your team. You are the actual people in the situation. The team has agreed to stick together, and all items are in good condition. This is the hottest time of the year in the desert. Whether the survivors decide to try to walk out or stay with the plane, they must decide how to protect themselves from the sun and dehydration. Moreover, it is mid-morning, and a long day of heat awaits those who plan to start walking immediately or wait for nightfall. Participants tend to overlook the enormous shock impact a crash landing would have on a person. It is safe to assume that no matter how poorly the participants do in the simulation, they would do even worse in the actual situation. This is not as menacing a place as it sounds if you are familiar with deserts. If you are not, and you panic, death is almost certain. The light twin-engine plane containing the bodies of the pilot and co-pilot has completely burned. This increases the shock over the crash for survivors and represents a serious loss of information the pilots may have supplied about the desert. Many items that might have been useful for survival were destroyed in the fire. Since the remaining airframe of the plane is so small and low to the ground, it probably couldn't be used as shelter. All are physically well. However, the crash experience has increased heartbeat, respiration, and perspiration, and has accelerated dehydration. In an actual situation, the first step would be to calm down. The pilot was unable to notify anyone of your position before the crash. Therefore, even though people may realize that the plane is missing, a large area would have to be searched to find it. You were approximately 65 miles off the course that was filed in your VFR flight plan. VFR means Visual Flight Rules, which are the rules that apply to air navigation in which the pilot remains in sight of the ground. The flight plan contains the vital information regarding the flight. Information such as course, speed, estimated time of arrival, type and color of aircraft, and number of people on board. Search and rescue operations would begin shortly after a plane on a flight plan failed to reach its destination at its estimated time of arrival. A search would begin no sooner than 11:30 a.m. and no later than 6 p.m. based on the 8-hour maximum flying time of a light twin-engine plane. The pilot had indicated before impact that you were 70 miles south-southwest from a mining camp, which is the nearest known habitation. 70 miles is a very long way to walk even under ideal conditions, particularly if one is not used to walking such distances. Considering the high temperatures, lack of water, and the inadequate protection of your street shoes, attempting to walk out would mean almost certain death. In this flat region of the desert, there is little or no natural protection against the elements. Except for cacti, the region is rather barren. The cacti, however, could become protection against the sun and heat. You could create shelter using a saguaro cactus as a tent pole for a parachute tent. And beryl cactus retains water in its tissue. By breaking it open and squeezing or sucking the pieces, one can obtain some water, although very little during this time of year. This is a difficult job, however, and unless one is very careful, more body water could be used through the effort than can be replaced by the cactus. Although barren, appearances can be deceiving. There is an abundance of edible animal and vegetable life. Starvation, however, is not the problem. Eating anything would only speed up dehydration. The more that is eaten, the greater the loss of moisture through digestion and waste removal. Moreover, the very act of hunting would be detrimental to your physical condition, because physical exertion will speed up dehydration. Since there is not enough water available to replace the body water lost through dehydration, protection from the sun and the dry, hot air is critical. This is the most immediate critical problem. With so much skin exposed to the sun and dry air, dehydration speeds up enormously. Moreover, street shoes present a very serious problem if the group is planning to walk out. Street shoes are not designed for desert walking, and they increase the likelihood of injuries. The handkerchief is useful as a hat, or, if necessary, as a veil with slits to see through in order to reduce glare and prevent blindness. The money is of little use here. The cigarettes might be a psychological tranquilizer, but without matches, the effort required to light a fire would be a dangerous waste of energy and body water. Alonzo W. Pond is the former chief of the desert branch of the Arctic Desert Tropic Information Center of the Air Force University at Maxwell Air Force Base. During World War II, Mr. Pond spent considerable time working with the Allied forces in the Sahara on desert survival problems. He has traveled to deserts across the country, living with people of nearly every desert in the world. Mr. Pond is the author of several books on survival training, including Survival and Peoples of the Desert.
Of all these items, the mirror is absolutely critical. It's the most powerful tool you have for communicating your presence. In sunlight, the simple mirror can generate 5 to 7 million candle power of light. The reflected sunbeam can even be seen beyond the horizon. If you had no other items, you'd still have an excellent chance of being spotted and picked up within the first 24 hours. Once you have a communication system to tell people where you are, your next problem is to slow down dehydration. The top coats, ironic as it may seem, are the best available means for doing this. Without them, survival time would be cut by at least a day. 40% of the body moisture that's lost through dehydration is lost through respiration and perspiration. Moisture lost through respiration can be cut significantly by remaining calm. Moisture lost through perspiration can be cut by preventing the hot, dry air from circulating next to the skin. You could probably survive 3 days with just the top coat and mirror. Although the quart of water would not significantly extend survival time, it would help to hold off the effects of dehydration. It would be best to drink the water as you become thirsty, so that you can remain as clear-headed as possible the first day to make important decisions and erect a shelter. Once dehydration begins, it would be impossible to reverse it with the amount of water available in this situation. Therefore, rationing it would not be a good decision. The only quick, reliable night signaling device is the flashlight. With it and the mirror, you have 24-hour signaling capability. It's also a multiple-use item during the day. The reflector and lens could be used as an auxiliary signaling device or for starting a fire. The battery container could be used for digging or as a water container in the distillation process. The parachute can serve as both shelter and a signaling device. The saguaro cactus could serve as a tent pole and the parachute shrouds as tent ropes. Double or triple folding the parachute would give shade dark enough to reduce the temperature underneath it by as much as 20%. Although not as crucial as the first 5 items, the jackknife would be useful for rigging the shelter and for cutting up the very tough barrel cacti for moisture. Its innumerable other uses give it the high ranking. In recent years, the development of plastic, non-porous materials has made it possible to build a solar still. By digging a hole and placing the raincoat over it, the temperature differential will extract some moisture from urine-soaked sand and pieces of barrel cacti and produce condensation on the underside of the plastic. By placing a small stone in the center of the plastic, a cone shape can be formed to cause moisture to drip into the flashlight container buried in the center of the hole. Up to a quart a day could be obtained in this way. This would be helpful, but not enough to make any significant difference. The physical activity required to extract the water is likely to use up about twice as much body water as would be gained. By the end of the second day, speech would be seriously impaired, and you might be unable to walk. The pistol would be useful as a sound signaling device, and the bullets as quick fire starters. The international distress signal is 3 shots in rapid succession. There have been numerous cases of survivors going undetected because they couldn't make any loud sounds. The butt of the pistol might also be used as a hammer. The pistol's advantages are counterbalanced by its very dangerous disadvantages. Impatience, irritability, and irrationality would all occur as dehydration increases. This is why critical decisions should be made before dehydration sets in. Under the circumstances, the availability of so lethal a tool constitutes a real danger to survivors. Assuming it were not used against humans, it might be used for hunting, which would be a complete waste of effort. Even if someone were able to shoot an animal with it, which is very unlikely, eating the meat would increase dehydration enormously as the body uses its water to process the food. The sunglasses could help protect against the intense sunlight of the desert. Photophthalmia and solar retinitis, both very similar to the effects of snow blindness, could be serious problems, especially by the second day. However, the dark shade of the parachute shelter would reduce the problem, as would darkening the area around the eyes with soot from the wreckage. Using a handkerchief or compressed material as a veil with eye slits cut into it would eliminate the vision problem. But the sunglasses would make things more comfortable. Because of the desert's low humidity, it's considered one of the least infectious places in the world. Due to the fact that blood thickens with dehydration, there's little danger from bleeding unless a vein is severed. In one well-documented case, a man lost and without water who had torn off all his clothes and fallen on sharp cacti and rocks until his body was covered with cuts didn't bleed until he was rescued and given water. The kit materials might be used as rope or for wrapping your legs, ankles, and head as a further protection against dehydration and sunlight. Aside from the possibility of using the reflective surfaces of the compass as an auxiliary signaling device, the compass is of little use. It could even be dangerous to have around once the effects of dehydration take hold. It might give someone the notion of walking out. The sectional air map of the area might be helpful for starting a fire or for toilet paper. One person might use it for a head cover or eye shade. It might have entertainment value, but it's essentially useless and perhaps dangerous because it too might encourage walking out. Edible animals of the desert? Desert animals, while plentiful, are seldom seen. They survive by laying low, as should the survivors. The problem confronting the group is dehydration, not starvation. Any energy extended in hunting would be costly in terms of potential water loss. If the hunt was successful, the intake of protein would cause an increase in the amount of water used to process the protein in the body. As a general rule of thumb, if you have lots of water, eat. Otherwise, don't consume anything. Although the book might contain useful information, it would be difficult to adjust your eyes to reading and remain attentive as dehydration increases. Consuming the vodka could be lethal in this situation. When severe alcoholism kills someone, he or she usually dies of dehydration. Alcohol absorbs water. The body loses an enormous amount of water trying to throw off the alcohol. 2 to 3 ounces of water per ounce of alcohol. The presence of alcohol could cause someone in a dehydrated state to increase his problem. The vodka would be helpful to start a fire or as a temporary coolant for the skin. The bottle might be useful. All in all, the vodka represents more danger than help. Widespread myths about salt tablets exist. With dehydration and loss of water, blood salinity increases. Sweat contains less salt than extracellular fluids. Without lots of extra water, the salt tablets would require body water to get rid of the increased salinity. The effect would be like drinking seawater. Even the man who developed salt tablets now maintains that they're of questionable value, except in geographical areas where there are salt deficiencies. Many of these items have some potential to aid you in this situation. However, the most important factor in your survival is to use common sense and to work together as a team.